kind of getting back to definition of terms, right? First off, what is AI? How do we want to define it for this conversation?
So the word has this intelligence and it has an artificial, which means that to the extent that human can do with a multiple information, multiple complex decision that we do. And you put that ability into the machine, that's how the layman term we can say that artificial intelligence. And right now the LLM that we see or the buzz of the AI in the market, it has it's not like the AI just now had been last 2 years, it had been to the industry last 20 years. I remember when we were at the Microsoft 2008 or 2010 era, the simple projects like given this data, find the right pattern. It was done in a pretty basic way and it used to say as an AI. Then that fast forward, the Google came into the picture, multiple complex algorithms come into the picture, training data set come apart, LLMs are going into come into the picture, and 2-3 years down the line, we will have the AGI, which is the artificial. They will be as great as humans because they have so many information. In fact, they will be better than in many of the decision making. Hope I
Kind of getting back to definition of terms, right? First off, what is AI? How do we want to define it for this conversation? If anybody wants to take post.
That's a hard question. No, so
If you point, yeah, go ahead.
So the word has this intelligence and it has an artificial, which means that to the extent that human can do with a multiple information, multiple complex decision that we do. And you put that ability into the machine, that's how the layman term we can say that artificial intelligence. And right now the LLM that we see or the buzz of the AI in the market, it has it's not like the AI just now had been last 2 years, it had been to the industry last 20 years. I remember when we were at the Microsoft 2008 or 2010 era, the simple projects like given this data, find the right pattern. It was done in a pretty basic way and it used to say as an AI. Then that fast forward, the Google came into the picture, multiple complex algorithms come into the picture, training data set come apart, LLMs are going into come into the picture, and 2-3 years down the line, we will have the AGI, which is the artificial. They will be as great as humans because they have so many information. In fact, they will be better than in many of the decision making. Hope I summarize the AI in a simple way.
To kind of add to that, obviously we just got done with the Google AI ML cohort just last year. We're the only fintech company chosen for that. For me, I kind of liken it to, we've got a 2.5-year-old daughter right now, and it's very similar to her. You feed her information, data, and she's able to go through and convert that into something that's hopefully amazing. Something that's more efficient in our case is what we're really looking for at the end of the day. So leverage the data that we have, analyze it, and turn it into something that is effective and that we can actually go through and improve our lives. I think that's really, it's about taking all of the inputs. That's really at the end of the day, AI is only as good as the inputs and the data that it has. That's why we're talking large language models. And so to me, that's what it is.
One thing that I'll mention that I've kind of figured out about a year ago or so was these models come with a lot of training, right? They're pre-trained. And so they kind of are useful in some way out of the box. And so that kind of creates a sort of magical experience, at least initially. And that's maybe one major difference compared to a lot of the traditional machine learning algorithms, which require lots of training data to do something. And yeah, I kind of wonder how many people are actually capable of running a proper sort of learning cycle, learning loop, and data pipeline within their products. One other question, and I kind of posited this, but product engineering for AI-enabled tech is the title here, right? So, I proposed what product engineering is or what product is. Does anybody have a different perspective or a nuanced view that I didn't cover?
I guess I can add to that a little bit. I feel like, the way you explained product engineering was very apt. at the same time, it just also makes me think about, think back, why did we need to define it in the first place? It's because there used to be a time where everyone in their specific function was working in a silo, right? Design was doing design, engineering was just coding, and, things were pretty disconnected at that point. But, obviously through experiences, we've learned that the way to build effective products is by bringing these functions together in a team. So when you have a single team with these cross-functional roles where you have a designer, a researcher, some engineers, a product manager, that's where the magic happens. And that's what makes a product engineering team. So, yeah.
Okay, and I think that actually is a good point, why come up with a term at all? So this is sort of, I'm personally an AI skeptic in a way, like, and a lot of it's just because there's a lot of hyperbole around like what it is and the kind of dumb money that's chasing it. What actually is, well, is AI useful, or are there a classification of, a set of classifications of problems where AI can be useful? Because I think that for people that have sort of the founder mentality here, maybe there's almost like a smell of, like, it smells like a problem that maybe I could apply. I could apply it. It's a little salty here. No, but yeah, like this seems like it could be something AI would be actually useful for, or in the future, near term, next few years or less, that AI would be useful for. So I don't know, Kyle, you seem like you've got like 10 answers ready to go.
Okay, so. Yeah, I describe myself as a bit of an AI skeptic, even though AI is why I came out of retirement about a year and a half ago. So, so this idiom, like if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. There's a kind of old school software engineering concept we call the shiny hammer, which is if you have a shiny hammer, like, ooh, there's this new service, there's this new thing, then everything starts to look like a shiny nail. You'll have engineers, if you're a CTO like me, proposing, I don't know what we're gonna do next, but we gotta use Rust because Rust is really shiny right now. I'm like, And I've spent my whole career preaching away from a problem orientation, which is like, what are we trying to solve? And what's the best way to solve it? Right now, because of the hype cycle with AI, there are a lot of people running around just saying AI is the hammer. I'm going to look for stuff, and if I squint, I can make a case and raise some money that this is where I can apply it. So I'm glad Eric kicked us off with like the product engineering sort of discovery, delivery. Like what to work on always starts with the customer. It doesn't start with some technology that you just want to play with. That's called academia. If you want to just go learn a technology, go somewhere where there are no commercial constraints. So I don't remember what we were talking about.
Yeah, well,
so that's what was going through.
We have like a set of techniques, right? And some of these types of problems are actually, let me give you an example. I think classification of unstructured data would be a possible strong LLM use case, right? I believe that you're both kind of your startups are related to that. Are there any other sort of use cases like that I think that you think show promise?
I can go with an interesting example that and a guy explicitly mentioned that the problem needs to be like a customer centric. So I'll go with one classical example where the glean comes into the picture, or AI definitely. We have a customer in Europe. So this customer name is Super Kilometer Filter. They sell a very interesting product. They sell a product that can slow down your speedometer. And basically it is done intentionally. They sold a product lot, but that product is super technical. It means that somebody is going to put inside the car needs to know a lot more information. What is X, what is Y, what is Z, and all this part. And before we coming into the picture, they have a 50 support team and always working into their UTC time zone. So they were customers in US and all this part. And most of the customers we're not able to get the support because there was nobody to answer the question what the customers are looking for. Even though they have a FAQ and all this part. These are the areas where AI is not just good, it's great. So AI answers like close to think about like 70 to 80% of the question, which means like a great boost in productivity, overall support cost, increasing the sales. Even though people just ask that, can it fit into my car? And when we talk as a human, we don't talk in a structured as Erin mentioned that it's unstructured. AI is great in handling the unstructured data. And I see that everywhere where it is unstructured, AI is just going to grow, and it's like infinite possibilities that anyone wants to add.
I think I would just add to it as far as it goes, we hear AI all the time. It needs to be solving a problem. I think that's what your skepticism comes from, is that we are throwing around AI just to raise money. If I don't mention AI, it's kind of like blockchain and crypto, especially if you go overseas. If you don't mention blockchain, you're not going to get money, which is what I'm doing adding blockchain. There's no reason for many products to have blockchain. It needs to have a logical reason to be there. So it gets back to product, user experience, user management. Like this is where you have to look at what are you building and why are you building it? Is it solving a real problem?
Well, so this is interesting. In my one-on-ones with Kyle, or one-on-one with Kyle, he talked about, because you mentioned blockchain and like trying to apply it, and I thought about the disastrous use of blockchain in video games. Yeah, and this reminded me of our conversation because, you know, Kyle had said, hey, like, some of this actually seems like video game development, which is to say, like, you're creating an experience and the minimum, the MVP isn't necessarily that minimal in order to cross the threshold of utility. And it kind of feels like an exploration, more like video game development. I don't know if Kyle, if you want to go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I spent a few years as a game developer, including my whole childhood, but I mean professionally. And in game development, as opposed to like business software development, there's this thing that I only encountered there, and which is, so like you can't just specify a game and say, okay, we've designed it, now we've got the specs, now engineers, please go build the game, and then when you come back, we'll sell it. You actually have to find a way to test the fun factor of the game. Like fun is not super deterministic, it's not super predictable. So successful game development shops have a very tight loop between design and build. Like it's, you know, designers and engineers work together every day, they have to. And in AI, that's a pattern that I'm starting to see emerge too, which is like, you can draw out your app and say, this will look like this will look like that. And the data will all be perfect, and it will magically be correct, and there won't be any hallucinations, and it will be consistent. And then an engineer builds it, and you test it, like, this doesn't work. If you apply sort of B2B SaaS organization models to AI, you're going to fail. You'll only have like 3 loops in an 18-month period. You actually have to work together every day and test things every day, which is part of why I think the large incumbents, like the Salesforce of the world, sorry if anyone works there, they're my current enemy. So
Salesforce.
they're sort of unlikely to succeed because they're assuming deterministic. I guess I didn't answer the definition of AI because I didn't have one, but that's how I think about it is you got deterministic software, meaning every time I run it, the output is the same. And with really started with machine learning, natural language processing, and now with LLMs, there's this whole category of non-deterministic. When I run it, there's kind of a probability distribution on what's going to happen. It's not predictable. And so we have to manage, we basically have to product manage very differently. And I think very small companies have a huge advantage because we don't have the departments yet, we don't have the silos yet, we don't have to reorganize.